Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I'm really excited to talk with Roger Rosmus, who is the CEO at Goliath Resources. Goliath Resources is my highest conviction gold discovery play, and I got a lot of topics to talk about with Roger, who is a very good friend of the show. So thank you very much for joining me, Roger.
Thanks, Allan, for having me on such short notice.
You're a hard worker, working on a Sunday like me.
Yeah, well, left Quebec City late last week and then headed west and still out west doing what I do. So hopefully we'll see some rewards paying off.
Banging the drum,
In
telling the story.
exactly, yeah. No, it's been a
You
very, very good week.
you
Certainly
were at
by
you were at a big conference in Quebec. Well, a very good conference in Quebec. I heard a lot of great things come out of that, and I'm sure you guys had a good reception there.
yeah, no, it was great reception. Slammed pretty much the entire time there, which was good. A lot of interest. Some of it was follow up from existing shareholders, but surprisingly, which I always like to do is meet people that haven't really heard the name or really know too much about the story, which is the key thing when we're going to these types of shows. I mean, we're not raising money, and the fact of getting the name out there is important. Also, had a lot of key Zoom calls as well with some new people interested overseas as well as down at a New York area. And just based on the volume we saw clearly, it's people are connecting the dots, which obviously is very exciting for to see, I guess, sort of the really the 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 work that we're doing and seeing it in the market the next day or the following day type of thing. So it just gives you confirmation that there clearly is a true interest in what we're up to here at Goliath Resources.
Well, that brings up a topic, and I think what we'll do is we'll start with some trends that I'm seeing, and then we'll get into the specifics about Goliath. But I am interested in what you just mentioned there, because part of my thesis for gold stocks improving is that there's new blood coming into the sector. And I think that's basically what you were describing there with your recent Zoom meetings with institutional people.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there's a good buzz going on now, and it's certainly improving. Sentiment's improving. Obviously gold price got a little slammed last week, but at the end of the day, it's all about the sentiment. Senior miners are making piles of money, and we're just waiting for that huge waterfall effect to eventually come down to the explorers, which I think we can see little trickles, little tiny little tributary type of falls coming, and we're waiting for the big gusher to come flying over anytime soon.
Well, I have some thoughts about why that's happening, and let's get into some of these trends. I like to talk with you about it, Roger, because you've been in the capital markets focused on mining for a long time, and you have some important insights that I'd like to talk about.
Sure, yeah. Fire away, Allan.
Okay. So my big trend for being bullish on gold is that I believe the world is going back to the gold standard. And the reason that I believe that is that the world, especially the United States, is in a death spiral of debt. You can see that in their growth of debt, and also crucially important is the costs increase of servicing that debt, which is only going to get worse because a lot of that debt was built up during the free money era after the 2008 global financial crisis. In a general sense, do you agree with my big thesis there?
Yeah, well, it's certainly looking that way. I mean, it's so, I mean, these are unprecedented times we're seeing here, obviously with new highs and with central banks buying gold, and clearly, there's a plan in place that we can theorize as to what actually is happening, and possibly, it's certainly a good thesis that you've got.
One of the things I just put out a report yesterday, and I had a really important chart in that that is evidence of what is happening and what has happened in the past. Going back to the early part of the 1900s, or even into the mid part of the 1900s, gold played a crucial role as a world reserve currency that held between 50 and 90 plus percent of the central banks held gold as the dominant world reserve currency. Then it dropped quite precipitously after around the mid 1980s to get down to even as low as 10%. And lately, in the last few years, it's been increasing again and now stands at about 17%, which exceeds the euro. So the number 2 world reserve currency currently is gold. Number 1, of course, is the US dollar. Gold is second. And I believe that as we return back to the gold standard, that's going to keep on increasing. And a big argument behind why I see that happening is the US debt, the global debt, the cost of that, the money printing will require the central bankers of the world to keep increasing that percentage of gold backing up their currencies and their debt.
Agreed. And then that causes another problem is there hasn't been any new big discoveries of material nature to reload what they're currently taking out of the ground, right? So hence, that's the opportunity for, I guess, Goliath shareholders that, we're onto a brand new discovery here, world class. And at the end of the day, once we finish what we're going to do here, I do believe it'll be a tier 1 asset that any senior miner would love to get their hands on.
That is a significant problem, and I believe that we're not too far away from physical gold going through a significant supply crunch. You've got all this buying coming of physical gold from the central
Yes.
bankers, the Chinese, even
Mm-hmm.
in Korea. I see that South Korea, they've got, or Taiwan, they've got these vending machines where you can go and buy physical gold. All of that,
Mm-hmm.
there's only so much physical gold out there. And I think we're coming to a real inflection point that could see a significant shortage of physical gold. And I'm really excited about that because for a long time, gold has been priced based on the paper market, derivatives, and not the physical market. And if we hit a shortage, I think we could see explosive growth in the price of gold.
Yeah, I agree. Certainly, you mentioned, I was going to say the retail participating, and then, even with Costco in the States doing the same thing, essentially selling up all the inventory and having to reload and so on. And I guess even with the well, retail everywhere, they're buying, and once I mean, it's one of these domino effects, and like you say, at some point there will be like you say, a significant crunch. Hence, gold prices are going to jump way higher than they're currently trading at, in my opinion.
So to me, exploration success is something that this industry needs dramatically. What is difficult is grassroots discoveries. And the reason, and especially in tremendous mining jurisdictions like the Golden Triangle, And the reason that you guys have this grassroots project that you've been advancing quite significantly over the last 3 drilling seasons is because of receding glaciers. Nobody ever saw that rock until your guys got on there.
That's correct. I mean, I'm sure many people had flown over it. And, really just until recent time, permanent snowpack is no longer there. There is a little bit of a glacier still hanging on there, but, without that glacier
Cover.
yeah, basically receding, then, this would not have been made possible. And I do believe there'll be additional discoveries in the triangle based on what we're seeing. As an example, just Goliath, up on the Cambrian ice field where there's 2 brand new targets. Well, actually, we ground truth 6 last year. Again, no BC Min files, never been drilled before. No one ever walked on these things, because if you look at Google Earth, sat image just looks like one big sheet of ice, but there's actually quite a bit of outcropping taking place there. I mean, if you look at the Porter, Idaho mine, which was quite profitable back in the early 1900s, that was actually originally built just on the edge of the glacier, and now it's like receded significantly from where it was. And one of our targets we're going to drill this year is the Treasure Island, where more of a VMS type mineralization, but it's quite exciting because again, no one had walked on this before or sampled it, and pretty much every sample ran over a gram per ton gold and up to almost 15% copper, which is pretty significant. So it's like one of these things like, where do you drill? So there alone, we'll end up putting probably four drill pads to test this new discovery, and we'll also be testing angles to drill underneath the glacier itself. So
why that target in particular really excites me is a few characteristics. One, not far from it is a historical VMS mine. Secondly, what made the Golden Triangle exciting was the Eskay Creek discovery, and it is a VMS deposit. So then you can see on your images that you have a large outcrop of sulfides, and you've sampled those and they're high grade. This looks like a prime VMS target in the Golden Triangle to me.
Definitely. Yeah, and the highest grade, I guess, was channel cut just under a meter, was up to almost 28, yeah, just over 28 grams per ton gold equivalent type of thing. So but just based on that, we think that whole area that we staked back in 2022, where we essentially doubled our land package to over 66,000 hectares, is that whole field is going to be, I think, kind of one of these goose that lays many golden eggs for us, or certainly has that potential for many years to come, that the shareholders of this company of Goliath will obviously benefit from. In addition to the flagship discovery down at Sherwood, which clearly we just still don't know how big it is, and which is obviously super exciting. And and where did this mineralization come from? So hopefully, based on all the work that we've been doing in off season with all these specialists, the geochemistry and the mapping and LiDAR and
School of Mines doing studies.
Yeah. I mean, to put it in perspective, we really only switching back to Surebet. Don't want to be bouncing.
That's no problem for me, because that's the big enchilada.
It is the big enchilada for sure, definitely. So, to put it simply, late terms, is we've really only drilled from the peak of the mountain to the base of the mountain, so near the valley floor. So this year, really, the concentration will be down under the valley floor, and into the volcanics. We've got about a half a dozen pads have been planned to come across just above the valley floor, and we've got some 800,000 meter holes planned. And again, based on Colorado School of Mines, their theory is that, also intrusive related system and possibly a porphyry. So, hey, if we drill into a porphyry, look out, this is going to, I think our share price is going to go parabolic.
Well, I think there's a lookout point even between that, Roger. And what I mean by that is in the sediments up at the top of the mountain, you've found a widespread gold mineralization in a series of stacked zones that you've hit gold mineralization in close to 100% of those drill holes into the sediments, with a high percentage being visible gold. What that tells me is that you have, this is the top of the system, and you've got this indicating that you have a very big, powerful, long-lived gold mineralizing system that, just if you only had the sediments, could be quite exciting. But let's start there.
Yeah, well, to your point about SK, and I think around 75-80% of the deposits or big discoveries in the triangle or in the volcanics. We just got lucky that this chunk of the seds are still sitting there, haven't been eroded away, and we see that mineralization. And again, it is it's got a huge footprint, 1.8 square kilometer. Almost 100% of the holes have hit. Got 35 to 40% of the holes last year have VG, visible gold, up to 11 millimeters in size. Even, to find VG in holes, in drill holes, is very low probability. Think about it, you're drilling a little tiny, NQ, HQ down this vein, and you're hitting VG all over the place. So like I say, what does that tell you? The system that brought all this mineralization to surface must be massive, in our opinion.
What it tells me as well is that not only have you hit fine-grained visible gold, but you've also hit coarse-grained visible gold at the top of the system.
Correct.
That, I don't throw around terms like potential for a tier 1 discovery very often. In fact, you might be the only company that I've ever covered formally in my report that I've made that comment about. And it's these characteristics that are why I'm making that kind of a comment.
Yeah. And well, we're on the same page. I mean, we believe, again, this will be a tier 1 asset at the end of the day. I do believe this will be a mine at some point down the road. We're getting exceptional metallurgical recovery of the gold, 92.2% recovery at 327 micron, which again is that coarse grade type of gold we're seeing. Also the fine grade gold as well. And
why that's important, folks, is that when you have start trying to mine something like this, you have to crush the rock. The less you have to crush it, the less money you have to spend. If you can then use gravity to recover the gold from that not very fine crush, this is very beneficial to recovery, high recovery rates and profitable recovery.
Correct. And also to mention, we've got, of that 92.2%, close to 50% of it is free gold from gravity alone. So to your point, it is the cheapest form of pouring doré bars. Gravity gold just comes out the bottom, and you get, sitting there ready to be poured into doré. Or at the end, alternatively, you can make a super, high grade concentrate, where we actually have spoken with various concentrate buyers around the world. We showed them our results, and they've confirmed with us we can get top dollar for this concentrate anywhere in the world. And being on tidewater, guess what? Again, cost savings, barge access either side of the project. You can barge material down to, Prince Rupert, 190 kilometers to the south. You've got rail that takes it across Canada, or deep sea port access there. So there's like many possibilities here. In addition to, potentially, let's call it a miner comes in and is interested in the project. There are obviously the town of Kitsault, where we where we lived for the summer during the program, houses up to 300 people. It was built for a moly mine back in the 80s. So this could actually house enough people to run a mine. Either Kitsault, there's an old permitted site, so brownfield site. Obviously the mill is no longer there, but there's a possibility to put a production facility there. Ascot, they just poured the first doré bar just to the north of us. Again, tidewater access. You could ship material potentially and run it, feedstock through their system. Or, an alternative would be also to, put something actually in the valley floor where the Sherwood is sitting, where down in the valley, and then you've got like all that sedimentary tonnage up above you. You've got essentially gravity working in your favor. So again, another cost saving. So we're ticking the box. Like, think about it: no underground mining, no cyanide. The system sitting above you, so you got gravity helping, working in your favor on the mining process. Barge, tide water with barge access, a town. So just think of the capex on this. Thinking that through, talk to a few folks that have put mines together, and they're thinking a fairly low capex if you're going to go down the path of actually putting something, building an actual site in the valley floor there to take it to production.
As you're describing that, Roger, it makes me think back to your claim maps and the Golden Triangle specifically. At the tip of that Golden Triangle is where all the communities are and the infrastructure is. You guys basically have pretty much most of the southern tip of the Golden Triangle, which is one of the most prolific, high-grade mining jurisdictions anywhere in the world. And you guys
Definitely.
have a
You
big
got
block of that.
Yeah, no, a huge block. And then, you have at the Antiochs that was in production for many years just to the south. And, obviously the moly mine there and what have you. And, we've done some dating on the rocks and so on. So it's all related to these porphyries, so around 50 to 55 million years of age. Obviously we're seeing some multiple events that took place, but we're looking at obviously, again, world-class geological setting where, guess what? There's a lot of high-grade type of material still yet to be found. And currently, our tack this year is to drill into that feeder source that brought all this mineralization to surface and expand on the known horizons. Again, these stacked shears, splays. And then let's not forget about our jackpot showing with, that ran over 21.5 ounces of gold equivalent off
That's
to
the one that's sort of at the eastern side of the in the volcanics, right below the zones you've already hit on. Right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about a kilometer to the southeast. It runs more of a parallel type of direction. What we're seeing at surface. So right now there we have about a 500 meters of strike, 400 meters of vertical relief, and near vertical-ish type of a system we're seeing. However, we're also seeing actually where this could possibly be extended, but if you recall, or some of the watchers or the followers, let's call shareholders, because initially we just thought we had like the three structures. We had the Sherwood, we had the Bonanza, and then now the Golden Gate down below. And we thought Bonanza was just the contact between the SEDS above and the volcanics below. But as we put this new model together, we hired a third-party group to put some fresh eyes on it. It looks like the Bonanza actually does follow the contact, but is now dipping into the volcanics towards the jackpot. So we're thinking possibly this may be somehow connected or part of the feeder. We don't know, but again, we'll be drilling very soon, and we're going to learn a lot more this year.
Well,
And
that in itself could be quite spectacular, because you're talking about a 1 kilometer step out there in the volcanics. But what I also notice is that the zones in the sediments are striking to the west. So you could have a whole nother system coming up from a kilometer over. That's pretty phenomenal.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So again, it could be like another stack kind of a system, like, you know, Quentin calls them like these piano keys, how he describes it. So this potentially could be like another piano key that is just shooting up, and there's a whole series of other shoots over there. We can't see too much at that area because, I mean, it's further down the mountain ridge and there's lots of overburden. So there's not a lot of places that pop out. So
Where it does daylight,
correct.
you've done some great sampling in the daylighted part.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So we'll drill that this year as well. And well, again, every drill season we learn more and more about the system, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And you know, every investor out there, in whatever stock you're looking at, new discovery, you know, the question should be, you know, how big is it? And if you can't answer that, then you know what, it's probably a good bet that
Really?
there's lots more to go, and that's you know, certainly our view on the world.
Well, I'm really impressed with the modeling that you guys have done. And by the way, the people that they have modeling it are some of the premier specialists of this kind of stuff in the world, and with extensive experience in the Golden Triangle. Now, and having worked for some pretty high profile people like Robert Friedland. But okay, what gets me, you know, so jacked up about this model is that you've got this series of stacked zones or veins, whatever you want to call it, in the
Yeah.
sediments. And in those sediments, you've seen somewhat of a transition from fine grain visible gold to very much more coarse grain visible gold. What my theory is that I think you've got the potential in those volcanics immediately below the sediments to find a series of stacked feeder zones that project up into the sediments. And with that transition from fine-grained visible gold to coarse-grained visible gold in the sediments, I'm really excited about this drilling into the volcanics this year.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly we're seeing like to your comp, yeah, we're seeing the higher, you know, coarser grain type of VG as we get further coming down closer to the volcanics. We're also seeing a higher copper numbers, also the ratio of bismuth antimony, which also tells us we're more proximal to you know, potential source of the of all the mineralization, and you know, potential, I guess, the feeder really. So you know, in our latest presentation, I forget what slide it is, but you know, we kind of show these hot spots, the bismuth antimony, versus what we're seeing more kind of base metal stuff, kind of further to the top of the system. But no, it looks, things are lining up. You know, things look really, really good for this year. We're really pumped to get the drills turning, and you know, see some 2024 core coming out of the ground, which you know, obviously will keep everyone abreast as to what's happening on the field as best we can.
So for the non-geologists out there, Roger's saying a lot there. You've got the sediments, you've got stacked zones in the sediments. Then between this, what you have to ask, well, what got that gold there? And
Yeah.
what I think is happening is you've got a series of stacked feeder zones that that fed those zones in the sediments. And below that, you have an ultimate feeder system. And so I'm pretty excited about all this, as you can imagine, Roger. I'm a shareholder and I own warrants in the company. So, you know, I'm pretty stoked about what you found there and what that's leading you to.
Yeah, no, you know, it's, you know, we kind of have to pinch myself every day that this is really happening. And like I say, things get better and better every year. And we, you know, we got the benefit of that, you know, the benefit of the Surebet, kind of the flagship discovery, sort of the main base for the company. And then, you know, we have this opportunity to go
Big
and look
enchilada.
at The big enchilada. Okay, yeah, okay. I'll and then, gives us some flexibility to go and look at some of this new stuff up at the Cambria ice field. So, this season we, best case scenario, we find a feeder at Sherwood. We drill into a brand new VMS up at Treasure Island, and another
Catch something out over Jackpot, you catch
somewhere
something.
at Jackpot, and then also we can't forget about the full contact, where we have
Yes,
that 1.4 kilometer Gossan, where we had like 101 gram per ton gold sample.
and that's up on the other side of the valley, right?
Well, it's up on the Cambria ice field, a little bit further. It's about 19 kilometers north of the Surebet discovery.
Which is the one that's to the south? There's a target there as well.
Oh, you're talking about the porphyry down at Lucky Strike near
Yes.
Terrace. Yeah, so that, yeah, well, yeah, so there's Treasure Island, full contact, Jackpot, and then the porphyry, untested porphyry target at Lucky Strike, which is our Lucky Strike property, which is just outside of beside the Terrace, which sits in the most between the two most prolific placer creeks in the entire district. And we hit some really high grade gold, copper numbers there, and we think we might have found the high grade in the center of that porphyry
Not only do
system.
you have a big enchilada discovery, but you also have a target-rich project.
Yes. Yep. Well, exactly. So, as I mentioned, that ice field to the north I think will continue to provide lots of joy for the shareholders of Goliath for many, many years to come. And so what can I say? Potentially 4 brand new drill bit discoveries this year that could be material, and then the Surebet either obviously expansion of the known systems and find new stack shears, and then this feeder that is there somewhere, and we think we're like honing in on it. Things look really really good. Things are lining up.
The gold didn't come from outer space, come from
That's
below.
correct. Yeah, that is
So
for sure.
I want to talk now about what's on the immediate horizon. You guys are getting very close to mobilizing your team, getting them out there with boots on the ground, getting ready for drilling. That's on the immediate horizon, right, Roger?
Correct. Yeah, we have mobilized for that. Correct.
Okay, so this then leads to the flow of news. And one thing that I've really appreciated about Goliath is that you guys are very aggressive in showing your drill core and putting out results and keeping your audience well informed and part of the whole exploration and drilling campaign. And that's what you've done in the past, and I'm assuming that that's what you're going to do in the future. Or
Yeah,
now.
definitely. Yeah, that's the plan. We'll continue providing the same type of detail that we have in the past 2-3 years of drilling, and we'll have lots of visuals, images that people can look at the core from 2024. Look back at core from 2023, 2022, previous news releases, and description of percentage of sphalerite, galena, as we know the gold is running with that, and obviously visible gold, and in some instances pyrrhotite and the pyrite as well. So, and quartz veining, the brecciation, all those things that we know when we see that in the core, typically historically that is going to run to what length and grade and so on. Obviously that's assay dependent, but certainly we'll be providing lots of information to keep people interested, to follow the story, and to make a logical educated decision as to whether they want to continue to own stock, buy more stock, sell the stock. It's up to obviously the shareholders decision what they'd like to do.
Sometimes to me, Roger, because I have so much experience in this business, and having been an exploration guy for 3 decades, Sometimes you can learn as much from what you're seeing in the drill core as the actual assays. And why I say that is that when you're dealing with coarse gold or even fine grain visible gold, you could be right beside something that's just, off the charts. And, but I'm looking to see, does that system continue? And are you seeing a transition from fine grain to coarse grain to feeder kind of indicators to the big enchilada that caused it all? And you guys are very good. I mean, I wish more companies were like you guys that, you see something in the core, you talk about it and you show it. And this enables people to see things on the fly. And like I said, I wish more companies would do that, Roger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a matter of cost, obviously, and we've been fortunate enough and blessed to have found this new discovery, which doesn't happen very often, especially in a vein type system, because you can be very random. You hit one hole here and you don't hit a hole over here. Versus, when we drilled this in 2021, the maiden drill program, and we drilled stepped out 1.1 kilometer down to the southwest and intercepted this. So doesn't happen very often. So it's a very unique situation to be in, which gives us obviously the market cap to be able to raise capital. So we've been able to raise funds in very difficult times. Maybe not at the price that I would like to get it done, but clearly we were been able to get funded and have the ability to bring in like SRK, Archer Cathro, Mother Lode Consulting,
Colorado School of Mines.
Colorado School of Mines as well, and and Drone North, and Vanessa Bennett, who's been in the business forever in that area, doing all our drone work.
You got a pretty important shareholder there that has averaged in at about 67 cents on your stock in Rob McEwen. And Rob McEwen has had a career of spotting great projects early. And, he wrote the checks when you guys were near your 52-week low and not very far from it. And, having a guy like Rob McEwen as a key shareholder must make you sleep well at night as well.
Yeah, definitely. The cornerstone shareholders, Rob McEwen, obviously there with his checkbook, but also, if we need any assistance or, give us some input, he's, made that clear to us. And then we've got, Eric Sprott, Crescat as well, but, just, Eric Sprott, he's nothing to sneeze at, he's been around a long time. Absolutely. And he's seen a lot of things and been through a lot of cycles.
Two of the guys that have, arguably are the most successful investors in exploration mining stocks in the whole business as key shareholders. Then you got Crescat, who offers you help with Quinton Henney to sort of get the story out there and also analyze what you're finding.
Yeah, no, again, it's one of those things where we've been extremely fortunate and obviously happy to have, gotten this recognition, which, for most people, I guess, to take that as we have third-party validation that this is something special, because they don't write checks just for anything. They're very, selective in nature. And
because you had some good looks, that's for sure, Roger.
Exactly. Without the rocks, I would just be, just some guy.
Good-looking guy.
Good looking. Okay, well.
Okay, so we're now on the cusp of drilling, and great news flow from the big enchilada at Sherwood and these other targets. I wanted to, before I let you go, Roger, I wanted to talk a little bit about the big picture of Goliath. You have what I think is a potential standalone project at Surebet, which could give you some opportunities to spin out assets to shareholders
Yeah.
of this vast array of other targets you have, and hopefully that they turn into new discoveries. Can you touch on that a little bit, Roger? Because that excites me as well. Let me tell you
Sure.
why it excites me. I had a good friend in Andre Goumond, who was a prospect generator, found the Eleanor mine. He sold the Eleanor mine. Then he spun out assets into a new company that was bought out. They spun out assets into that company, a new company, and that was bought out. And
Yeah.
so this path, I think Goliath has the potential to follow a similar, the Andre Goumond path of Virginia gold.
It certainly is one of the options. Again, with all the stuff, we've talked about up in the Camber ice field, and then, this porphyry down at in Terrace that we'll be drilling. But, at the end of the day, if we have to go it alone, so to speak, we'll put the right team together. And, we've got, again, we've got Ascot to the north, we have Kitsault Brownfield site. We've already signed an MOU with a number of groups where, Dolly Varden's part of that, and Black Wolf and so on, to look at the viability of putting a mill into production. That's actually owned by RCF. They obviously they want to do something with that site, and it's in the town of Kitsault where we're based out of. So, from a, let's say, a CapEx point of view, we could set something up possibly in Kitsault, and reduce that time for permitting and so on. Or, like you say, that the big enchilada, senior comes along and says, hey, we really want to take that off your hands for the right price. So all those things are in play. So we're not, cornered into one specific, like say door. We have like a door number 1, 2, 3, and 4 kind of thing that we can choose of. But, clearly, if a senior was to take an interest in the project or own 100% at some point, then yeah, we do have the ability to, carve out some of these other sort of more grassroots targets and areas of the property, and spin that out into the next iteration of Goliath Resources, which would be a company called David Resources, which does exist right now. It's a 100% owned private company by Goliath, that it's there. It's set up. I'm not saying it's going to happen today, tomorrow. It may never happen, other than, we're prepared. We're taking all the boxes. We're in preparation for whatever might come our way. How's that? I think that's probably a good way to sum that up.
Well, a lot of people, a lot of companies and management in your position, they talk about those avenues or doors that could be open. But sometimes I think it's more about wishful thinking than it is reality. Part of the reason I say that is that if they make a big discovery, a lot of times those come with a very big capex, and needs to be taken over by a major to become a mine. What you're talking about at Sherwood is something that could have a lot more work, folks. Let me just say that. Bear in mind all these forward-looking statement disclaimers and whatnot. But they don't really have a project that could be developed by a junior, because they have these massive capex costs to build something. That puts you in a different position.
Correct. The things we talked about with infrastructure, the town, tidewater, the metallurgy, underground, no cyanide, no deleterious materials, close to, like you say, that the southern tip of the triangle has all the benefits that any mine or future mine would love to have. So, we're not sitting 200 kilometers or 200 miles from the nearest road, power, or whatever. I mean, it's right there, like 25 clicks to high tension power. Right. So yeah, low capex is the name, and
away, and deep water
correct.
access not far away. You
Yeah.
really couldn't
And
find
just
a
the
better
low
location.
power. Yeah, and the low power consumption with the nuggety gold. I mean, it's gonna. I think the OpEx would be, well, certainly from people I've spoken with, that it would be a low OpEx type of scenario. So I think, I think we tick all the boxes, and we're not married to one scenario or the other. We're going to go to the best scenario for the shareholders, maximize value on this. So that's really the plan, is to see what this year's drilling brings, and take it from there, kind of reassess and sort of make a plan at that particular juncture once we have the new data.
Well, Roger, I really appreciate your time on a Sunday, that you've taken the time to talk about all this with us. You know, I'm a very enthusiastic guy about this project. Mainly because I've not seen too many of these come around over the last 30 years. Grassroots projects with phenomenal potential, or grassroots discoveries with tremendous potential. And I could talk to you for a long time about all this. We did enjoy some good time at the PDAC recently,
Yes.
back in March. So that was a lot of fun seeing you guys and your team. And basically, thanks a lot for taking the time today, Roger.
Hey, well, yeah, appreciate it, Allan, and anytime, once we have something more to talk about, any updates, we'll love to come back and chat for some of your viewers and get the update, and just sort of get a check in to see what we're thinking, and our interpretation of some of the results we're seeing at the various stages.
My door is always open to you, Roger, and your team.
That's great. Thanks, Allan. Cheers.
All right, I'm going to close it off here, and we can tack at the other end for a second. So there you go, folks. I think, well, first of all, I'm very biased. I own shares in the company. I own warrants in the company. I will address my bias in that, no matter whether a company I'm a shareholder of, they sponsor my reports, they're a pick in my reports, they all have to go through the filter that I built up over 30 years of exploration experience, and having worked with top geophysicists, geochemists, geologists. Every company I look at, talk about, feature in my reports, pick, sponsors, shareholdings, they all have to fall through that filter. And I think over hundreds of these interviews and hundreds of reports, I've shown that, what I look at has to go through those filters. And when this project goes through those filters, as I told Roger earlier, I don't throw around the potential for a tier 1 gold discovery easily. This is the only company that I've ever said that about, companies that are in my reports. And I'm very excited about the drilling season that's coming up. I think we'll have lots to talk about in future interviews. As always, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decision. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.